Mario Strikers Battle League is the first Mario Strikers game in 15 years, and it's great to see the series finally return, as Nintendo hasn't been utilizing too many Mario spin-offs lately. The game overall is very fun and engaging. The gameplay definitely feels like an improvement to the previous two games. It really feels like the series has never left because the presentation wasn't too toned down, and it's very visually appealing. However, while the content that is there is great, it has very little to offer, and it leaves a lot to be desired. Unfortunately, this game falls victim to Nintendo's fix-it-later approach, where Nintendo releases a game that is lacking in content, but adds the rest later in free content updates after launch. Despite my problems with it, my thoughts on the game are mostly positive, since it's the most fun I've had with a Mario sports game in a while. So without further ado, let's dive into the world of Mario Strikers Battle League. As mentioned in the intro, it's been a while since the last Strikers game, and since then, many things in the Mario franchise have changed. During the early 2010s, the Mario franchise took a major shift and became much more safe, and the brand became more assimilated. For a while, many Mario spin-offs felt generic, or uninspired, and during this time, a new Strikers game wasn't really possible. Now, in the Switch era, things have been improving in the Mario franchise. The brand restrictions are a little more lenient, and there's more room for creativity. These aspects can definitely be seen in Battle League. The characters are very expressive, they can wear all sorts of different gear, and the gameplay is just as chaotic as it was before. It really doesn't seem like the game was toned down that much compared to the previous entries, aside from some of the differences in presentation. Unfortunately, while the game is enjoyable overall, at the moment it definitely suffers from a lack of content, as there is a small roster and a limited amount of stadium themes. It definitely has a lot of missed potential that we really won't get to see until the months following the game's release. Overall, it feels like another regular entry in the series, and that's why it's good to see it back. The gameplay in Mario Strikers is fast-paced, fun, and engaging, and Battle League is no exception. The way they pulled off the controls in this game feels very well, but it does take a bit of practice before you'll get used to it. My only nitpick with the controls is that they are mapped slightly differently than the other games, but once you get used to it, it's really a non-issue. The core formula is basically the same in Battle League. There's two goalies, this time being the inferior Boom Boom. You can tackle, perform charge shots, charge up the ball by passing, and slam players into the electric fence. On top of all of the core mechanics, it adds a lot of new and welcomed additions to the series. You can now charge up tackles, which you can use to perform a stronger tackle or propel another player on your team. They added dodging, which you can use to avoid tackles or items. If a perfect dodge is pulled off, you gain a speed boost. You can also dash, which can help the game extra distance, but only for a limited amount of time, since there is stamina. There are less items this time around, being the mushroom, Bob-omb, banana, green shell, red shell, and the star. While it's a bit disappointing not having to cut items like the blue shell or the chain chomp, the items do seem more helpful and are easier to use. The items are also easier to acquire now, since you get them with the question block, rather than performing a charged shot. The Mega Strikes are also back, and this time they're called Hyper Strikes, and are obtained using an orb that appears on the field. I like the orb approach much better than just being able to charge at any time, because it makes the game more balanced. It also limits you to only 2 points per goal, which is definitely more fair than 3 to 5 in charged. This time, it definitely seems to be more in line with the first game. My only problem with the gameplay is the fact that you can't control the goalies, and Boom Boom isn't always reliable, which is why they should have kept Critter. But other than that, it's amazing. The gameplay overall is very fun, and it's definitely an improvement to the previous entries. The Mario Strikers games have been known to have a style that is edgier and more gritty than you'd expect in other Mario games. Battle League doesn't really capture this feeling exactly, but it does have its own charm in this game. It's kind of going for a more futuristic science fiction-esque style. The characters are still just as expressive as they were in previous titles, as seen with the various animations. Just as expected, the entrance, victory, and taunt animations all look very nice and have the quality you would expect from a game by Next Level Games. Some of these are pretty funny as well, and they definitely have meme potential, like Donkey Kong dancing, Wario eating a head of garlic, or Waluigi posing with a rose. These characters are definitely in line with how they are meant to be portrayed, but are exaggerated a lot, which makes the presentation enjoyable. The graphics also look pretty well for the Nintendo Switch, and it's definitely a step up from the other Mario sports games like Mario Golf and Mario Tennis Aces. The UI design is also very nice, and it's refreshing not to see another minimalistic menu again. There's a lot of great artwork mixed in with the design of the UI, and it looks really nice. I'd also like to say that the promotional art for this game is absolutely amazing, and it definitely didn't disappoint. I'm glad that this game kept the original style rather than creating generic 3D renders for each of the characters. One of the biggest new additions in this game are the clubs, and honestly, it's a pretty fun mode overall. Basically, it's an online mode where you can create a group that participates in the club and can achieve rankings during seasons. Despite being online only, there's a surprising number of things to do here. It's very customizable, since you can have a personal stadium and you can unlock different things such as goals, decorations, field designs, and the layout of the stadium itself. To unlock these things, you need to earn tokens by playing games online. It's actually very functional, since the game gives you an incentive to play the game and to rank up your club. My only problem with the customizable stadiums is that you can only customize them online. You can't create other ones outside of the club. However, you can play your club stadium in all other modes, even when offline. Besides tokens, another currency in Battle League that you can earn is coins, which can be used to unlock gear for characters. Gear can increase various stats, and can be very beneficial if you want to play with a certain style. Gear is also cosmetic, and more sets look very nice on each of the characters. I do think that there should be more gear sets in the game, since the system has a lot of potential. It's also a bit disappointing that you can't unlock anything else with the coins, since they could have included things like a couple extra characters or stadiums. But that leads me into my next topic. While most aspects of Battle League are great, one area that it definitely suffers in at the moment is the amount of content. There are only 10 characters and 5 stadium themes, which is less than the bare minimum and is pretty disappointing. It definitely seems like Nintendo intentionally pushed Next Level Games to push this game out early to release the rest of the content later, and leaving it at an unfinished state at launch. It's even missing fan favorites such as Daisy, Diddy Kong, or Drybones, which definitely feels like a slap in the face at longtime fans of the series. Battle League also doesn't have stage gimmicks, and while I personally didn't care for the stage gimmicks that much in Charged, they should at least give people the option for those who want them. It's really sad that there's so much missing content, since this game is genuinely great in my opinion. Everything else about this game is good, except for the lack of content. I really hope Nintendo stops this fix-it-later practice, because it's harmful to games like this that have a lot of potential, and potential to have an active community. While the content in the game is definitely lackluster, and it definitely doesn't feel like the whole experience, it really didn't bring the game down that much for me. I'm still really enjoying the gameplay, and it still has a charm that the other Mario sports games on the Switch couldn't achieve. One final thing is the single-player content, and to be completely honest, I actually thought it was alright. The cup battles are actually a decently fun time to play through, and it reminded me a lot of the cup battles from the previous 2 games. There's also the unlockable Galactic mode, which is absolutely brutal. Like, I didn't even think it was possible at first. While it definitely seems like padding, I actually kind of like this mode. Mario spin-offs generally have been pretty easy over the past few years, and really haven't had any actual hard campaigns in any of them. So I'm glad that this actually provided a pretty substantial challenge that is satisfying to complete once you finish it. Overall, the amount of content in Battle League is disappointing to say the least, but the cup battles were actually pretty decent. Anyways, those were my thoughts on Mario Strikers Battle League. I thought it was really fun. It has great gameplay, fun modes, nice presentation, but unfortunately, the content is pretty lackluster. If you're looking for a fun and engaging online multiplayer game, I would recommend it, but if you're concerned about the lack of content, I would suggest waiting until they update the game. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Twitter if you want to. Goodbye.